Hi, everybody. Good evening, and I am so excited to be with you all for another Real Talk series. I'm so excited. Oh, yay! Hi! Emily's here, and Ligia, and Zach. Welcome, everybody. Today we are going to be talking with Jana from For the Refugees of the Nation. So I'm just going to wait for her to pop on this Instagram call. Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for joining. Also, just let you know you're going to be able to ask questions throughout this entire call. I know, let's see, Chicago Dance Makers Forum, welcome. I'm not sure if that's also Sean that works with refugees in Chicago, but welcome to everybody who's here. And we're just going to wait a few more seconds. Let me see if I can add Jana in manually. Let's see here. No, it doesn't seem like I can. I might have to close this and... Oh, there she is. Okay. Jana, just request. There we go. Yay!
Hey.
Hi, Jana.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I am good. I'm excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you. And happy Wednesday. It is Wednesday today. Okay, I'm just going to pull up, there we go, some of this information. Awesome. Well, I want to first thank you so much for taking your time to be here, and I'm
Of
so
course.
thrilled and excited to have you here to share about the amazing work that you're doing with your organization, but not only through dance, but also for health and the arts in general. Because it's so important to recognize that the arts aren't just to express yourself, but they can also be for new types of community building, which the community might not even recognize is a potential. So today our topic is using ballet and support to foster growth for refugee children in Texas. So I'm just going to put that here. And while I'm putting that here, Jana, can you give a little introduction on yourself, who you are, how long you're doing, and where you're from?
Sure. My name is Jana Funderburk. I'm from Dallas, Texas, still living here, working in this area. My background is actually in visual art. So I studied visual arts in college and have taught art for many years, sometimes with kids from hard places, from vulnerable places, and then sometimes with and more in a private school, kind of prep school environment. So, but my long-standing professional interest has been bringing the arts to vulnerable people. So the job I have currently at For the Nation's Refugee Outreach is kind of my dream job. So I'm the arts coordinator there. So I coordinate both right now visual arts portion and teach that, and then I coordinate the dance portion, which is new for me because I'm not a dance instructor or dance person, but I've absolutely loved helping to build that program. It's been a complete joy for me.
And I think that's really amazing because it just comes to show that you don't have to be professional or particularly talented in one area in order to coordinate
Right.
a space for children to use that type of art form. For example, you have the visual arts aspect, which you do use with the children, but you can also coordinate the dance aspect with other professionals in the area to
Right.
also partner side by side with the children. And in that way, they can also realize in what ways they best express themselves, right?
Yeah, right. That's one thing I love about the program I'm working in. And we have an after school program, and we have some different electives the kids can choose. So we have taekwondo and soccer and ballet and art. And so it's a chance for them to kind of try some things out and see what they're good at and see what they love. So.
Awesome. Can you share a little bit more about the child population that you work with? Where are they refugees from? How many students there are and their ages?
Sure. So the Dallas area is one of the largest refugee communities in the country, actually. The number one resettling city in the past years has been Houston. Texas, and the number 2 city or metropolitan area is actually the Dallas area. So we have a really large refugee population in this area, and we work in an area of Dallas that historically has been kind of underserved. And so the kids that we work with are from lots of places. We have a lot of Burmese students. We have a lot of Eritrean and Ethiopian students who are, they're East African. Those two countries are right there together. We have a lot of students from the DRC who are Congolese, sometimes by way of Rwanda. And then we have some fewer, but we have some from Afghanistan and some other kind of Muslim areas as well. So the ages of the kids in our program, anywhere from age 5 up through about 6th grade, about 12. So we divide them into 2 age groups as they go through their programs and choose dance or choose whatever they're doing. So.
Amazing. And can you share about, I guess, in your program, are the children newly resettled refugees, or have they been there and since birth?
That's a good question.
Right after birth. We
really have both. We have kids who have been here since they were 2, and they're practically American. They're bilingual, but they speak English with an American accent. They still may need services for various reasons because their parents may not speak English, and they need homework help for that reason because their parents may be unable to help them much because of that language difference. But and then we have kids who have arrived in the last year or 6 months who are still, struggling through English, and they're still in ESL. And so we really have a wide variety of kids.
And what does it look like when the children might not share the same language, but they're able to share a space and share expression through the arts, whether it be the visual arts or dance or taekwondo?
Well, I mean, I love the idea, and I think of the arts bringing people together who wouldn't normally maybe be drawn together. So I think that in that way, the arts can build community for sure, and that's always our hope, Yeah.
Do they ever have a challenge communicating with each other within the program? I know that you do have ESL, so there are students at a level where their English capacity might not be very fluent.
Yeah, I would say that our kids, their brains are sort of made for language. So even if they've arrived in the past couple of years, unless they have a learning difference, they learn English so quickly. So the younger they are, the faster they learn. So honestly, I haven't really seen a lot of that. I think the kids communicate pretty well with one another, except unless you're just a really recent arrival. I'm thinking of some kids that we have right now who are they're Congolese kids, and they're older. So they have immigrated here, when they're 12 and 14, and that's a whole different ballgame of language learning when you're older. So that their progress is obviously going to be a lot slower. And they're getting ESL at school. They're not doing ESL with us, well, they might in the summer, but I think that what they are getting in our programs is just a chance to try new things they've never tried before, because I'm thinking of this particular group of kids who came from a refugee camp, and it's just a whole new world here, and a lot of things to figure out, and a lot of things that are scary here that are so different. And so I think our hope is that our after school program will be a place where they feel loved and safe and can experience new things and take ballet and do creative movement and dance, of course, is part of a lot of African cultures. So it's sort of a natural fit in that way.
Yeah, something very different from the culture in the United States, or even, to a different extent than Latin America, because in Africa, dancing is part of the traditional culture. It's part of the indigenous culture there. So when they move to a different country and they're also able to express themselves through dance, it's a connection to where they came from, and it allows them to be able to move forward in a way that doesn't maybe look as scary.
Right.
So that's
I
really
hope
incredible.
So. Yeah, definitely the hope.
Can you share a little bit more about the homework program and how you've maybe seen a difference in the children and their confidence through support in the academic portion, not just in the arts? Because I think a lot of people who are watching who are maybe in the arts are aware that the arts helps you grow as a person, an individual, and helps you with your confidence, but maybe we haven't seen that many programs that combine academic support with support and opportunity in the arts. So can you speak a little bit to that?
Sure. I mean, I think the idea of the homework help is really just, as I said earlier, a lot of our kids, they may speak English fairly well. But honestly, when you kind of sit down with them doing homework, which I'm usually doing the art stuff, but I definitely sit down at times and help the kids, is that even the kids who sound really American, once you start really talking with them and listening to them read and try to decode different things they're reading, you'll definitely see gaps, which is totally to be expected if they're in a household that's not English speaking. So I think our hope is just to encourage them and help them succeed in the school system they're in. And again, I mean, the basis of all of what we're doing really is to show love, and we're faith-based, so it's really to show God's love. But I would also say, I mean, I'm sure, as you know, Christine, that the arts they're really good for your brain too. You know, I think dance and that kind of movement, coordinated movement, is good for every part of you, including your brain. And art is the same way. There are a lot of connections that can be made when you're doing those things that are actually really good cognitively, I think, for you. And there's, I think, quite a bit of research to back that up.
Yeah, amazing. And it's so true because with my program, it started just as a dance program, but then I recognized the need for support with homework help. And as you said, you know, someone here, for example, can speak Spanish as their first language, but if their parents don't have a high education level, the Spanish they're speaking might not actually be grammatically correct.
Right.
And when they go to do homework, they might not understand why what they're writing is incorrect, on top of having a school system that maybe doesn't teach at a level that is always correct. I would say, I don't want to say that, but sometimes even what teachers teach might not be consistent with what grammar is, or even in other areas where the parents are doing the best that they can do, and they just aren't able to support in the homework way. So can you talk a little bit about that, and like challenges you've seen that the parents are trying their best, but it's very difficult for them to meet in this new situation, in this new context, also with backgrounds of trauma, how you can kind of be there to help meet the needs of the community and do it in a respectful way? Because also that's a question a lot of people do have. How do you come into a community and support them, but in a way that you're not harming them, and supporting them in a way that they do actually appreciate and find helpful?
Right. Those are all really good points and good questions. I would say that most of our parents, they want their kids to do well in school. They know how important it is. And so that is really the big draw to our program, I would say. I think the reason we get kids in the door is because their parents are looking for help for them, because they know that they don't speak English that well and there's only so much they can do. And then another issue is that a lot of our refugee parents are working. They're trying to feed their families, and so they may be working stocking at Walmart, or they may be working in a factory, a cell phone factory, or they may be doing work that is really difficult work and long days going up. You know, we have a lot of our Burmese population who take a bus up to a city about an hour away every day, and they work in a chicken plant, a processing plant. And so they're working to make a new life, and they know that education, whether or not they have an education, they know that that's super important. So actually, I think as far as that goes, I think that, I mean, we have plenty of interest and parents who are, I think, generally thankful for that program. But the respect issue is huge, because you want to listen to that community, and if you're serving them, you want to listen to what they need and what they think their families need, rather than imposing things on them, for sure. So I think in our organization as a whole, we've identified that people need English, you know, and when it's dealing with children, the kids need, practically, they need homework, they need help with their homework, and they need help with reading and math practice and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also, well, so your organization is a Christian nonprofit like mine, and so it's so important. The base of everything we do is to share the love of God and to share the love of Christ with these kids. And it's beautiful because this can take on so many different forms. Your program does do Bible studies with the children as well, right?
Yes, we
Yeah,
do.
so
We do Bible education every day.
yeah, so that's amazing because, we do share the message of Christ with them, and not only in that, but also in the actions, and also teaching the kids that we all have varied and unique and very important talents that are different and very diverse. And so it's really supporting not only the community in sharing what the Lord is sharing with us, but also through our actions in helping uplift people as the individuals that they are. And that's just so beautiful. And sometimes I think a lot of people might be scared to do that, because they think, oh, if I'm a Christian organization, does that mean that I should just be like sharing what the Bible says? But it's so important to recognize there are so many ways to do that. And it's so important to use your individual skill set in the context that God has placed you in, And sometimes it looks like more like you're reading the Bible, and sometimes it looks like you're reading the Bible and helping with homework or doing taekwondo or doing a plie at the bar, right?
Right. Yeah. All of those things. I think a holistic approach is really good, especially for these communities.
So I'd like to take a moment now and see if anyone in the audience has any questions. As it says here, our topic for today in the Real Talk series is using ballet and homework support to foster growth for refugee children in Texas. And today we are talking with Jana from For the Nations Refugee Outreach. That's a long one. Sometimes I get confused.
It's a long name. Yeah.
Yeah, so if anyone has any questions about having an organization like this, or reaching out to the community, or where to find the need or the vulnerable or isolated populations in your community, because for the Refugees of the Nation works with refugees, but in whatever situation you're in, there are always going to be populations of people that are isolated or marginalized that could use a program that supports them with homework and arts opportunities, and just shares the love of Christ with them every day so they know they're beautiful and loved and valued.
That's right.
So I'm not sure if we have any questions yet. I don't see any questions so far. So let's move forward. I want to know if you can share a little bit about the logistical difficulties in coordinating classes, because I know a lot of times, especially with refugee populations and also low-income populations, not everyone might have their own form of transportation.
Right.
And so that might be difficult, because even if a parent wants the child to go, there might not be a possible way to transport the child. And also, if the parent is working multiple jobs, that might be difficult logistically for a parent to send their child or coordinate all necessary to get the child to that program. So could you share a little bit more about that?
Sure. So you're right. This population of people, I think transportation is going to be one of the primary issues. A lot of our refugee students, adults, don't have cars, or they may be dependent on rides, and they may be using public transportation. But so what we do in our program is we actually have a little fleet of vans and buses, and we go get the kids. So we have we actually had some grant money in the past year to hire a bus driver, an awesome guy, and he is on, he works for us, and he has a little route, and he goes to all the apartment complexes we work with every day after school, and picks them up and brings them, and then brings them home again. And then we do also have families who have their own transportation too, for sure. But that is, if we didn't have that, I think we would be really limited. We would really, I think, be limited to going to the apartment complex, which is totally valid. But if you're trying to do a program where, for example, you need space to do a ballet class, that might be could be more complicated. So yeah, we have over the years, we've gathered some buses and vans to use for the kids. So that's how we do it.
Yeah. That's incredible, because I know that, well, some of the other speakers that we are going to have this week in the Real Talk series are going to talk about that as being one of the challenges. And even outside of the country, here, I have this same situation come up with the children from the orphanage. They're only allowed to arrive to the orphanage if there's somebody free at that moment with a car at that moment that can bring them. If not, we have to raise the funds in order to pay for the boat to get them across the lake, and they have to have the funds to bring them from up the mountain to the dock. So all these logistical issues are still part of being able to, reach out and kind of see the need, but think creatively on how to address that need. So sometimes it might look like maybe instead of giving classes as many times, multiple times a week, maybe once a week where you're going to them, or once a week where you fundraise for that and making the class a little longer. And also recognizing maybe sometimes if logistically it's not completely possible, it's not bad if you do less, right? Because sometimes you're only doing the best that you can. And I know a lot of people who are in the phase of trying to start initiatives or different types of nonprofit organizations might see that as a challenge and feel a little threatened by that against their organization's vision, but don't be scared by challenges that come up, such as logistical challenges.
Right. Those are definitely to be expected, I think, whether you're working with vulnerable people in the United States or overseas. Yeah, so true.
Definitely. Now, can you share a little bit with us about maybe a student who you've seen them grow through the program and you've seen them consistently come, and just what type of growth they've had because of being part of your program?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to. We have two precious girls who are twins, actually, identical twins. They are Ethiopian, and they are so faithful coming to our program. They started coming, I think, about 2 years ago, and they are one of the ones who they do have transportation, so their mom makes sure that they get there, and they have grown in ballet tremendously. Actually, they're I would say not naturally gifted in ballet, but they love it. They're excited to be there, and they are there like every week. By far our most consistent kids, and it just, I mean, obviously if you're there and you have that consistency, that you're going to grow, and we're able to get to know them better because they're there and on a consistent basis. And we've seen a lot of growth in those two girls, and they're just a joy to have around too. But their excitement level we've done these little tiny recitals each semester for the girls, for their parents, kind of mini recitals. And these two, I mean, they've taken it so seriously, and they've gone home and told their moms what's happening, and they come the day of, and their mom has, because they're African, their mom has taken all their braids out and blown their hair out and redone it into beautiful buns just for that little mini recital. And it's just been really sweet to see how seriously they've taken it and how they've embraced it, and they just love it. So amazing.
And can you share maybe a story of a student? It doesn't have to be from the dance program, because I know that you don't work specifically in the ballet program, but kind of overseas the arts program. Can you share maybe a story of a student who, when they came in, they were, I don't know what the phrase is, but they were just recently placed in the Dallas, Texas area as refugees from wherever they had been before, and just, I guess, the shift that has happened, because I know that we spoke about it, but kind of if you can share that with the audience.
Sure. Tell me more what you mean about shift.
So people with children who come from orphanage, some of them come from situations of extreme trauma, and children that are refugees, they might have experienced bombing or something similar to this. And well, with my children, they might be very timid in the beginning, and they might not feel like they fit in totally with the group. But I see some children who specifically have a lot of talent in dance. They begin to flourish in leaders, and then I maybe speak with the orphanage mom or see how they're interacting in the home versus in the dance class, and recognize that dance has become a space where they become a leader and where they can flourish and where they're respected the way that they are. And then also the way that they're interacting with the other students and with me, and then also becoming more confident in the home, which is what moms have shared with me. Just something like that, if you have an example of kids who
Yeah,
have kind of grown in their confidence.
for sure. This isn't exactly what you're bringing up, but I am thinking of about a little girl. Well, she's not that little, but she's about fifth grade, who I would say is quite shy. She's been around our programs for a long time, and so is her dad. Her dad is in our programs as well. She is from South Sudan, and but she is she's definitely a little unsure of herself. I've noticed when I work with her in homework help, or when I've assessed her, when I don't usually do that stuff, but I kind of help as needed, and I just have noticed that she struggles academically for sure, and struggles with reading, and you know, a lot of that kind of timidity can come from if you have struggles like that, those can really affect your confidence. And this past year I was really encouraged to see that she started out in ballet, which she did like for sure, but she but when we had Kenna, who you're going to be interviewing tomorrow, when Kenna joined us this past year and started offering more of a creative movement, freer dance class on Thursdays, this child decided to join that class, and just, I don't know, I just sort of feel like she blossomed. It was like kind of just the right slot for her, and I just felt like she was showing a lot more confidence as she worked with Kenna, and they kind of had them, I won't let her share more, but Kenna had them making up some dances and things together, and she absolutely loves that class. And if Kenna can't show up for some reason, she's at, you know, where's Kenna? And just a lot more assertive even in asking, you know, are we having that class today? And where's Kenna? And it's a pretty big deal for her. So in that sense, I've really seen her kind of blossom, come out of her shell through that experience. It's like she kind of found just the right niche for herself. So, yeah.
That's so beautiful, because so many times, well, you don't, in dance class, in the dance world, you know, there's always that one teacher that makes you feel the most beautiful and strong that you have ever felt, and you know that when you go to that class, it doesn't matter what's happening outside of the doors, but in that space, it's you and the teacher, and she is invested in you, and because she's invested in you, you're invested in yourself, and that's something that really carries forward in all other facets of life, which is something that is so beautiful. I can't talk about all the arts because I haven't done all of them, but definitely with dance, and that's one reason why I'm a strong believer in dance being able to be used as a tool to help rebuild and walk with kids through difficult times in life, which definitely children who are, you know, refugees are coming from high trauma situations. And, you know, as I say so many times, children who come from high trauma situations, they might not be able to process everything that's happened, and so they might not be able to process how they feel in any given situation, especially because they might have disassociated themselves with, for example, their bodies. And so being able to have something like dance or the visual arts or taekwondo, when you're moving your hand or you're moving your whole body and it becomes a reaction to how you feel or what you're trying to express, is so extremely important in order to be able to really reconnect that mind to body relationship.
Absolutely. And I completely agree with you. And I think trauma is a huge issue in our community. And I do think, are you familiar with Madeleine L'Engle, who wrote A Wrinkle in Time, that author? Do you know her, Christine?
I know A Wrinkle in Time. I'm not aware of other authors that has written.
Okay. So Madeleine L'Engle, she's a writer, but she wrote a lot about creativity and making art. And she talked a lot about, she called it Kairos time, but basically she talked a lot about that state that you go into when you're dancing or making art, like that creative state where you sort of have, some people call it flow, or just really like the chance to lose yourself in what you're doing and become completely unself-conscious because you're focused on what you're doing and you're enjoying it. And it's a really restful and restorative place to be. And if you've experienced trauma, as you know, you have something called hypervigilance, where you really are not able to many times get in your head in a way that's healthy. You're constantly kind of on high alert.
Yeah.
And it's just a symptom of PTSD. But I think there's plenty of research and just experiences that we've had in our program that when you make art, when you make art, it's healing, because you are able to, like you were saying, almost make that body mind connection, and you're able to you are able to lose yourself, and that is in a healthy way, in a way where you're experiencing, well, Madeline L'Engle almost called it like an eternal state of being, like we're walking through time, normal time, but when we're creating, we're sort of touching that eternal time that is healing and brings rest. So on a scientific level, I mean, I think there's lots of good research about the arts and trauma, and they can really heal the brain and body and soul.
Definitely. And also, it's just so beautiful how, I mean, our call today is not just a specific talk on ballet, but it's just so beautiful how there's so many different art forms or forms of expression that can also help heal the body, you know, and the Lord God has placed it in human nature to do these things naturally and want to do these things and be drawn to these things that do heal us naturally, especially if we were made to go out and work. So
Right.
thank you for incorporating all these different things into your program. I know there's a few dance studios that do have maybe a varied arts offered, but there's not that many, and it's really nice that you're able to do that and offer it to a population that is going through a lot, and then this can be a way to walk forward, you know, with a new community supporting you.
Right. I agree. I think a lot of these people have experienced being dehumanized, and that's why they end up in the US. And so I think the arts are really humanizing because they're just part of being human. And so I do think if you've been dehumanized through being displaced, through running away from a genocide to protect your family, which is what a lot of our families have done, you're fleeing political violence or all kinds of war, then being able to participate in different arts programs it's just life affirming and kind of affirming of human dignity, and so it really matters. I think it matters more than most people realize. Mm-hmm. So beauty matters, you know,
especially people who are coming from situations of having to flee their country. A lot of time in the parents' mind, they realize it's because a certain population against their population or hates them or wants to wipe them out. Right. And either that they directly dislike you because of what religion or skin or culture you're from, or you are just maybe reciprocal receiver of that situation, and it's not even you that they're against. And so it's you going from a situation where you're fleeing for your life because you know somebody is against you and literally trying to hurt you, but then you're coming into a new community, which is scary and completely new. And it's amazing to have people who are saying, I know it's scary and new, but we're not judging you, and we just love you for where you're at and who you are, and just come, and you don't have to think about anything, just dance with us, and we want to help you succeed in life, and we believe in your future, which is why we're helping you academically, also as well as communicatively, so you can be able to talk with your classmates, as well as in the arts, so you can learn to express yourself if you're not even the best at academics, or if you are and you just love the arts.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
And also, so I want to move a little bit forward and talk about the challenges that your organization has faced with the COVID-19 crisis. And also, if anyone has questions, feel free to leave the questions below and we will get to those right after we answer this question. For any questions, you can ask about the program for the Refugees of the Nation outreach, or what it looks like to start an organization that reaches out to a marginalized or vulnerable population, or wanting to start homework support in your community. You can ask anything that you want. Okay, so how has COVID-19 impacted your organization and the logistics of it, and how you reach out to the children, and maybe funding even?
Right. So we've definitely had to pivot like everyone else. Our adult population in particular is super vulnerable. We have a lot of elderly students. We have a lot of students who have heart disease and high blood pressure, and just really just, I would say, the diseases of having a really stressful life. If you've had to flee your country and you've experienced everything that goes along with that, that impacts your body. So we have a lot of really vulnerable people. So we actually, for the time being, shut down our adult classes, and we've had some online. Our students who are ESL students who are upper level are able to do online classes. But as far as the kids go, we shut down for a while, and then what we've done for the summer is recognize that we have some kids who are super vulnerable. They're vulnerable. They will be very vulnerable staying at home all summer in many different ways. Not all of our kids are that vulnerable, but there's definitely a group of them who may be left at home alone, who may be in unsafe situations, who may not be getting enough to eat possibly during the summer. And then
so could you expand on that a little bit? Because I don't think everyone, could you expand on that a little bit? I don't think everybody understands fully what that means.
Yes. So, we have children, and we have children who may be from families who are in poverty. Not all of our students are in poverty, but and because of various family situations, or because of work situations with their parents, or they during the summer in particular will be especially vulnerable to possibly going hungry, and possibly being vulnerable to, if you're living in an apartment complex and your parents aren't home, being vulnerable to predators, frankly, to bad actors in your community. And so there's definitely a recognition, and then also just to getting into trouble because you're a kid and maybe no one's supervising you, and and so we recognized that this particular summer that we needed to follow all the guidelines and be very, very careful, but we needed to kind of identify the most vulnerable children and provide something for them. And so what we did is we normally have something like 500 kids in our building every day in the summer. We have a really extensive summer kind of day camp.
That's a very large program.
It's a very large program. I do not have 500 kids in art or dance. It's just the overall program is really large. Yeah. But this summer we were looking at our square footage, and we were looking at following CDC guidelines and keeping everyone safe, but then also wanting to protect those vulnerable kids and give them some supervision, and also those kids they're also vulnerable to falling even further behind academically. So we wanted to give them reading help. So what we did is we scaled it down to like 50 kids, and we spaced them out all over our building, and everyone is masked, and we're doing a lot of cleaning, and so we were able to have a very, very modified summer program. And then right now what we're actually doing is the kids have gone back to school virtually here in Dallas. We're all online. And again, that is very difficult for our most vulnerable kids because my kids are online right now, and I'm trying to figure out, I've had moments where I'm like, what? I'm trying to help my kids, and it's not easy. And I am a native Texan, and I'm well educated, and it's kind of complicated. So, so some of these families are going to be, these children are going to need help. So what we're doing right now is we have a program where we have, again, a small group of kids, hopefully kids who need it the most are coming from about 12 to 5. And they're bringing their laptops with them, and so our staff will be on the phone with the school district and trying to get help and help them with their online school. And then we have one ballet class happening. Yay, just one class right now, but it's something, a very small class. Everyone's in a mask. We have an awesome teacher, Abby, who's doing that for our kids right now. And we're doing a little bit of art. But, you know, we're doing the whole, like, big groups aren't coming together and the classes aren't mixing. So it's been kind of complicated, but so COVID has changed things a lot, but we're hopefully meeting some of the biggest needs that we have. And we also, I think you've done this too, Christine, we've really pivoted to relief. So we have a big refrigerated truck outside in our parking lot, and we're having drive-through relief where we give away fresh food and dry goods and diapers and things like that. So that's not something we did before. You know, that's all new. And we have a rent assistance program that we have started. So it's been, like all organizations, we've had to figure out how to safely serve these communities who are especially vulnerable, and then also but not wanting to bring sickness to their communities either as we're helping them. So it's been tricky, you know.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing I did want to touch upon is something people might not be aware of, and I personally was not aware of it until I moved here, but there's a huge technological gap between developing countries and the United States. So we're not only talking about somebody not understanding how to shift between Zoom and Google Meets and the teachers' platforms, but in that, trying to explain to somebody how to use Zoom and receive and send in electronic homework if they never had a smartphone before. Like, I actually might have one here. So imagine if, oh, no, I don't know where it is. Imagine if you just had an old chocolate bar phone with the buttons in the center and the small screen that was not a touch screen. And from that moment, somebody told you, like, use one of these swipey things which has absolutely no buttons, but you need to somehow enter this, and on top of that, find an application, understand what everything says in the application in English, be able to respond to teachers correctly. It's a very, very challenging situation because of the technological barrier as well as like the language barrier. And I can only imagine how difficult it is for these parents who are also exhausted from trying to work all day in a non-native language and stressed about this new system of schooling, because right now in most of Africa, they just aren't going to school. Here, my students just aren't doing school. They get sent worksheets every 4 weeks and do a few worksheets a week, and then they don't get homework at all or do any online classes for like 4 more weeks.
Right. Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And I think it's just a different skill set too. It's like we have students who, you know, they can farm and weave baskets. They have skill sets that are different that I don't have, but that they may not have the skill sets that they need to function well in our culture. So hopefully that's part of what our organization does, is help acculturate our students and help them figure out how to live here, because it is so different from where they're from, most of them. It is so very different.
And also, so you said that the students have laptops. Are those laptops that the students' families own themselves, or do you have a program for the students to use laptops?
No, I think that we, I'm not a part of that program right now, but we have invested in some iPads to have at our building. But also, I know some of our students have, they've gotten laptops that have been issued from their school. So some of them have Chromebooks usually, I think, and sometimes iPads from their school. And then we have some on hand as well. So it's been, I mean, I think it's been, I haven't been helping with that part, the academic online school part, but I think it has been, they're figuring it out, but it has been quite a thing, you know, lots of calls to the school and the school district. And it's very complicated, as I said, even for someone who's from here. So, yeah.
Yes. And Well, I could only imagine. I literally could only imagine how difficult that is because sometimes I cannot understand what somebody who's maybe 10 years younger than me is telling me as far as technology. And I just try to multiply that by five, and then I really will have zero idea what's going on, and then take that and tell me in a different language. Maybe I just might as well walk away. But it's
Yeah,
just,
for sure.
it's really great all that you're doing seriously because all of these areas of support, the families it's amazing because you're really training these little kids to be able to also teach their families as well how to learn
Yeah.
this new technology so that they can better function in this new area that they've been forced to move to, but at least the transition will be less difficult and less like trying to skid on a textured surface.
I hope so. Yeah, I think that's definitely the hope for sure.
So I think, let's see, I think we're about to, yep, time's gonna run out soon. So I'd like to open it up to questions. If anybody has any questions for Jana or her program or myself, feel free to ask. And while we see if anyone has questions, Jana, if you could just share the short and long-term goals of this program.
For sure. Um, let's see. Long-term goals for me right now for the dance program specifically um, are actually, let's do short-term goals first because it kind of relates to what we talked about the other night because you've been so helpful. Since I'm not in the dance world, I'm just kind of overseeing this program, and I'm overseeing really amazing volunteer teachers who are kind of coming in and out. Is that I really want short term to work on building community in those dance classes. And um, that would probably be the downside of having that dance class be in a larger drop in after school program because
Mm-hmm.
there's sort of people in and out and milling around and lots of things going on, and the opportunity to change electives at different times. And so I think just working on, now that we've been doing this for about 2 years now, so it's still pretty new, just working on now being really focused and specific about setting goals with them and celebrating those goals when they meet them, and um, making them feel like they're a part of a little dance community even within that
Mm-hmm.
larger program we have.
Mm-hmm.
Some of that's happened naturally, but I think it's time to get more deliberate about it. So that would be one of my short-term goals for sure. Um, and honestly, I also want for short-term goals as far as building community. I'm hoping that we continue to build community with these dance recitals within the
Mm-hmm.
larger community, that we are able, transportation is even an issue at our recitals, getting families to come and getting them to
Mm-hmm.
know and sending flyers and making sure people know and that they're able to even come to those stands, because we can go pick up the kids, but it's just kind of, even that's a little complicated. So just figuring out ways to do a better job of that, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And so that we are in their community and their community feels proud of them and they're able to attend and be a part. And then long term, I'm really hoping as we continue to grow, we've had several wonderful local small ballet companies offer to scholarship and students that we have who are gifted and who want to be in a more serious ballet program, which is amazing. But I don't think we're quite there yet, either in the identifying the students and then just having like the structure to get them to a studio. So I think long term, I'm really hoping we can kind of long term, I hope that we can identify and encourage and find kids who really have a natural gifting, and make them feel like they can do it, that they're, and you had some good thoughts about that as well, just about how to integrate kids from totally different backgrounds into a studio setting, a ballet studio
Mm-hmm.
setting. And there can be cultural clash there, and there's all kinds of things to consider. But long term, I'm hoping that we can make that happen because we've had such generous offers from studios, and we're just not quite ready to do it. But I hope we will. And then my other long term goal is I really want to expand some of our dance and movement offerings to our adult population.
Mm-hmm.
We're hoping at some point to have a room dedicated to dance and because right now we dance kind of in a really big open area, and it's great. There's tons of space, but it's very public, and there's sort of people walking, and it can be a little distracting. So long term, I hope we have a dedicated space. But I really, and again, this is something like you were talking about respect. These are things that we have to kind of ask our community about and see if it's actually something that they would want to be a part of. But I feel like they would, knowing a lot of our adult students. But I would love to have some kind of movement classes, or we have a lot of elderly students who I think would probably love some kind of movement class, and it would be good for their souls and good for their bodies, and just get the blood pumping and do flexibility stuff. And so I would really like to expand this from just kind of a recreational ballet for kids thing to maybe something a little bit larger.
Yeah, I actually spent some time in Peru, and I was volunteer teaching ballet to a group of elderly women who were like elderly women who came from situations of either war or very difficult situations and were widowed because of some type of internal strife in the company. And the dance helped them so much, not only express themselves, but they were able to connect that with poetry and photography. So their dance, the little dances that they made up, they would show at community events, and they would also hang up their pictures. Yeah, and then one of them would speak the poetry that they wrote together that was an expression of their past and their lives. And it's just, it's so incredible how it can be used in all ages. Oops.
Yeah, no, I love that. We'll have to talk more about that, because I need some good tips. But I look at all these really amazing people we have coming to our adult ESL classes and our community stuff, and I'm like, I really feel like we could offer something good there that they might really love, and like you said, might really give life to people who want to participate.
And if you have any questions, you can call me at any moment so we can figure that out.
Yeah,
because it's so beautiful.
You've already been really helpful, so I will.
Dance for all ages, even for the boys, you know, especially from the African countries, because dance in Africa is more a male art form than it is for women. So a male dance class also could look to get you more funding and support.
Yeah, I love that. So far, at least with the kids, even the African boys are they won't come to dance, and I think they're just being shamed because they're in America. You know, I know that within their families, I know there's dancing happening, but so far there's definitely some embarrassment amongst the boys. But I have a feeling that the men would not feel that way. They're not having that American peer pressure, so that would be pretty great to have some men in some kind of expressive dance class or traditional. I would love to have some of our students from Ethiopia and from Congo. I would love to give them spaces to perform traditional dances and showcase that. We're not quite there yet, but I really think that would be just really great for the community. So
definitely, and I say definitely so much. I just realized that just now. I know that with my students and their parents, if given a space and you tell them ahead of time, like, does anybody want to share this? And it can be your chance to connect in a new way and to have a new type of leadership, and they can even perform it with their child. And so they kind of get really excited about that.
I like that.
And so that could be a fun thing, like 1 week of like these workshops, and then you can share something short, and then the kids can share something, or you can do it with your kid. And like each day will represent a different country. Just so many ideas popping in.
Yes. I think that is so. We started to do that right before COVID. Some of our teachers were saying, you know, bring some music from your country, or let's look it up on my phone, and I want to see. And if some of them were very shy, they really wanted to share, but they were super shy about it. But we convinced some of them to do a little dancing. And again, I do think being in such a public space is a little bit intimidating. So I think once we have a room that's a little more cozy, where there's not like a whole community walking through, I think that will, hopefully they'll feel a little bit less inhibited. But yeah, I love it. I think long term, ballet is good for everybody, right? But I do think somehow I want to find ways to affirm the traditional dancing and, art forms of the cultures these people are coming from. So,
Mhm. Oh yeah, and their forms of dance are so much more fun than ballet class. Let
yeah.
me tell you, I have right now a volunteer
Yeah.
Afrobeats teacher, and she teaches them about different countries every week and uses
So
like a dance move
fun.
that reflects their traditional dance. And my
Yeah.
students love it because ballet is
Oh,
so structured and disciplined, and you don't
right.
really get to the fully expressive point until you reach maybe early teens or like
Sure.
14-ish when you actually have the
Uh-huh.
technique down. But
Right, right,
it's
right.
so beautiful, the African dance.
Hmm.
Yeah, you can just like let go and you just have to have some basic moves, but it's really an amazing way to connect, the whole
Yeah.
community and everyone who might not have the same coordination talents as those who are able to excel maybe in a ballet class. Because to excel in a ballet
Yes.
class, unfortunately, you have to be naturally coordinated or want it 200%.
Right, right. No, and that's even when I was talking about that child earlier who's from South Sudan. I think, ballet is it's a pretty specific art form, right? And it's very particular, and that really, for some girls, their alley, and and for some it's not. And so that's why it was so awesome to have Kenna start offering a class that was more free, and so yeah, to see some students blossom who hadn't quite yet, and see how much they loved it.
Mhm.
So I hope we'll continue to find the right people. I think we have to find the right people who can offer those things, and they're coming. I mean, slowly. We have the
Amen.
teachers we
Yes.
have so far are amazing. So yeah.
Mhm. Amen. Do you have any last comments before we finish this call? Because it's going to cut us off in about 5 minutes. It's just going to
Sure.
close.
Oh, I would just say follow us on Instagram if you want to follow what we're doing, and my email's on there. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to email me. I'll help you and point you in the right direction. If you have questions or comments, I'd love to discuss. If you're interested in funding, I have to fundraise our budget, our arts budget. So if you're interested in giving, you can email me and I'll tell you where to go and to donate on our organization's webpage, or you can donate over the phone. But it's a joy to be here. This is like one of my favorite things to talk about in my whole life. So um, I think that um, this work is important, and I think probably more important than we realize. Like I said earlier, so I hope that your ministry keeps growing and blossoming, and I hope all the all the people that you're talking to this week. I hope that all of these groups continue to grow and flourish. And thank you for giving us a space to chat about it and share about it.
Of course, thank you everyone who attended. I'm so glad that
Yes,
you were
thank
all
you.
able to make it. I will be saving this in the Instagram TV live feed. I think I got that correct.
Right, which is
And
kind
once
of hard to
again,
find now, right? So you have to go to like the button. I don't know. I got
yes, so
confused
go in
today.
your tab.
Yeah, go on the tab and then find it. Yeah.
Yes. So again, this was using ballet and homework support to foster growth for refugee children in Texas with Jana Funderburk from For the Nations Refugee Outreach. Thank you so much, Jana. Thank you everyone who is here.
Thank you
God bless you
guys.
all.
Thanks
And
for
we'll see you
coming.
tomorrow at our next Real Talk series call. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.